You'd think citizens from Europe, many of them from wealthy, stable democracies, would have no problem getting a visa to the United States, right? Well, think again. In 2025, visa rejections for European travelers are rising fast, and some countries are feeling the sting more than others. Whether it's due to tightened U.S. immigration policies, overstay concerns, or political tensions, a surprising number of European applications are being denied. And for some countries, the rejection rates are high enough to spark diplomatic backlash. The so-called transatlantic friendship is looking a little shaky. Today on Globe Discoveries, we're counting down the 10 European countries with the highest U.S. visa rejection rates in 2025. Some names on this list may surprise you, while others reflect deeper issues at play. Let's dive in. Number 10. Estonia. Estonia, the digital powerhouse of the Baltics, may be a tech-savvy star in Europe, but it's not having an easy time getting into the U.S. In 2025, the country recorded a U.S. visa rejection rate of 16.3%, a surprising jump from just 9.7% the year before. The uptick has left both travelers and officials scratching their heads. One reason for the spike is the growing number of Estonian remote workers and digital nomads applying for visas without clear long-term plans. U.S. consulates have flagged these applicants as potential overstay risks, especially when the line between work and tourism gets blurry. The rejection trend has cast a shadow over Estonia's otherwise clean global image. Estonian government officials have formally requested clarification from the U.S. Embassy, citing frustration over what they call inconsistent decision-making. American officials, meanwhile, insist the process remains case by case and rooted in visa law. But for Estonians eager to attend tech summits, visit family, or tour the States, the process is more frustrating than ever. Estonia's rejection rate is still far from the worst in Europe, but it's climbing fast. And with no clear answers from Washington, many travelers are simply looking elsewhere. For now, the land of e-residency is getting a red light at the U.S. border. Number 9. Hungary. Hungary has found itself in an awkward spot in 2025, with U.S. visa rejections rising to 17.8%. While the country maintains diplomatic ties with Washington, its domestic political climate has made American immigration officials increasingly cautious. Concerns over misinformation, weakened institutions, and visa fraud have triggered more denials. A growing number of Hungarian applicants are flagged for vague travel purposes or insufficient financial documentation. According to consular sources, applicants listing general tourism but unable to show strong home ties are most at risk. The U.S. government is also reportedly tightening scrutiny on applicants from Eastern Europe across the board. The Hungarian government has criticized the surge in denials as discriminatory and has appealed for greater transparency in the visa process. Prime Minister Viktor Orbán's administration sees it as a diplomatic slight, especially given Hungary's NATO membership and military cooperation with the U.S. But so far, American consular officials have stood firm. Tour operators in Budapest report a drop in U.S.-bound bookings, with many travelers opting for destinations in Canada or Asia instead. The business community has also raised concerns, particularly among those seeking entry for trade expos or professional conferences. In short, frustration is growing. For Hungarians dreaming of visiting New York or Los Angeles, the visa interview now feels more like a legal obstacle course. And unless policies shift, that trend looks set to continue. Number 8. Bulgaria. Bulgaria continues to struggle with one of the highest U.S. visa rejection rates in the European Union, currently sitting at 18.2% in 2025. This isn't entirely new. Bulgaria, along with Romania, is one of the few EU countries not part of the U.S. visa waiver program. But frustration over the issue is reaching a boiling point. The primary reason cited for rejections is insufficient proof of intent to return. U.S. consular officers remain concerned about possible overstays or unauthorized work, especially for young or unemployed applicants. Despite economic improvements in Bulgaria, perceptions from Washington haven't caught up. Bulgarian officials have called the situation unacceptable, pointing out that rejection rates persist even as their citizens demonstrate low actual overstay numbers. Some have accused the U.S. of using vague criteria and inconsistent standards. The Bulgarian Foreign Ministry has even floated the idea of reciprocal visa restrictions in protest. In 2025, activists and business leaders in Sofia staged demonstrations urging the U.S. to finally add Bulgaria to the visa waiver program. While that goal remains elusive, the political pressure is rising. For now, the visa window remains narrow. Bulgaria's tourism and business community continues to suffer as travelers are left out in the cold. And with the rejection rate climbing, so is the resentment toward a long-standing transatlantic partner. Number 7. Romania. Romania continues to be a sore point in U.S.-EU relations when it comes to visas. In 2025, the country saw a U.S. visa rejection rate of 19.6%, frustrating officials who feel Romania's loyalty to NATO and global cooperation deserves better treatment. Despite a strong relationship with Washington on defense and security, Romanians still face some of the toughest visa approval odds in Europe. The issue stems largely from economic assumptions and outdated risk profiles. Many applicants are denied on the basis of potential overstay risk, even though Romania's actual overstay rate has declined sharply in recent years. Critics argue that the criteria used by U.S. consulates are arbitrary and outdated. In 2025, the Romanian government launched a fresh campaign urging the U.S. to include the country in the visa waiver program. Lawmakers have warned that continued exclusion undermines trust in transatlantic unity. Protests and petitions have also gained traction within Romania's civil society. Business leaders and tech professionals are especially hard hit, as many face repeated denials despite legitimate travel purposes. Conferences, internships, and training programs are routinely missed due to visa delays or outright rejections. This has led to a push toward alternative destinations like Canada or Australia. As Romania builds its economy and global footprint, being shut out by the U.S. remains a glaring contradiction. And until the rejection rate drops, diplomatic tensions may continue to bubble beneath the surface. Number 6. Croatia. Croatia may be one of the EU's youngest members, but that hasn't spared it from the sting of U.S. visa rejections. In 2025, the visa denial rate for Croatian applicants sits at 21.4%, one of the highest in Europe. This is especially frustrating for a country that prides itself on close transatlantic ties. U.S. consular officials point to vague travel plans and insufficient financial guarantees as common reasons for denial. But Croatian officials say the application process lacks clarity and disproportionately punishes younger applicants and freelancers. This has sparked debate within the Croatian parliament and business sector. Despite Croatia's efforts to align with Western economic and security standards, visa progress has lagged behind. Some believe the country's small size and relatively recent EU accession still influence perception in Washington. However, Croatia's tourism, education, and tech industries are growing and need better access to the U.S. market. In 2025, Croatia joined Bulgaria and Romania in lobbying the European Commission to pressure the U.S. for fairness in visa policies. Cultural and academic exchanges have also slowed, with many applicants simply giving up after multiple failed attempts. This stagnation is now being viewed as a diplomatic stumbling block. Croatia may be on the rise in Europe, but when it comes to the U.S. visa system, it's still stuck in limbo. And unless changes come soon, a new generation of Croatians may start looking elsewhere for opportunity. Number 5. Poland. Poland might be a key NATO ally, but when it comes to U.S. visa approvals, the story isn't quite as friendly. In 2025, Poland's visa rejection rate hit 22.8%, placing it firmly in the top tier of European countries facing visa difficulties. While many Poles are eligible for the visa waiver program, those who don't qualify face increasing scrutiny. The rejection spike has been linked to concerns over visa overstays and unclear travel purposes, especially for seasonal workers and younger travelers. U.S. embassies cite inconsistent documentation and insufficient ties to Poland as common red flags. However, Polish officials argue that these criteria unfairly penalize low-income applicants and first-time travelers. Poland's government has urged Washington to reassess its approach, particularly given Poland's frontline role in NATO operations and support for U.S. interests in Eastern Europe. Diplomatic channels have been opened to address the growing frustration. Still, the visa approval process remains opaque and unpredictable for many applicants. Business leaders in Warsaw are sounding the alarm over missed opportunities for tech, education, and manufacturing partnerships. Polish students and researchers are increasingly choosing Canadian and German institutions over American ones due to the difficulty of getting visas. the economic impact is beginning to show. Despite being a close U.S. partner on paper, Poland is facing a growing visa credibility gap, and until the process becomes more transparent, skepticism toward U.S. immigration policy will likely continue to rise. Number 4. Serbia. Serbia, though not an EU member, continues to rank among the European countries with the highest U.S. visa denial rates, reaching 25.1% in 2025. The U.S. cites historical concerns over immigration violations and a high percentage of incomplete applications. But to many in Belgrade, the system feels rigged. One of the most common issues flagged by U.S. consulates is a lack of financial proof or return incentives. With a sizable Serbian diaspora in the U.S., immigration officers remain cautious about applicants who may try to overstay their visas. Unfortunately, even legitimate tourists and professionals often get caught in this dragnet. Serbian officials have voiced concern that the visa rejection rate is politically influenced, especially considering Serbia's non-alignment in certain global conflicts. In response, they've pushed for a more modernized and transparent application process. But so far, change has been slow. Meanwhile, cultural and educational exchange programs have taken a hit. Artists, students, and entrepreneurs who previously engaged with the U.S. are now redirecting their focus toward the EU or even China. The diplomatic chill is being felt across all levels of society. For Serbia, the high rejection rate symbolizes more than just bureaucracy. It's a barrier to stronger global integration. Unless reforms are made, the U.S. risks pushing away a generation of would-be visitors and future allies. Number 3. Albania. Albania has long struggled with U.S. visa approvals, and 2025 brought more bad news, a staggering 26.7% rejection rate. Though not an EU member, Albania has been pushing for stronger Western integration. Yet U.S. visa statistics tell a different story. Many applicants are turned away over fears of overstays or undocumented work. The rejection issue is particularly frustrating for younger Albanians seeking study or exchange programs. Consular officials frequently cite insufficient financial support or vague travel plans as reasons for denial. Even those with full academic sponsorships report difficulty getting approvals. Albania's government has opened talks with U.S. embassy officials, asking for better communication and more transparent evaluation standards. However, no reforms have materialized so far. Critics argue the system disproportionately affects working-class applicants and rural residents. Business owners and tourism leaders in Tirana have raised concerns about how the rejection rate is affecting local confidence in American institutions. As more Albanians shift toward European or Turkish destinations, the long-term relationship with the U.S. could weaken. A new generation is beginning to look elsewhere. Unless reforms happen soon, the red tape between Albania and the U.S. may leave more people stranded at the consulate than welcomed at the airport. Number 2. Bosnia and Herzegovina. Bosnia and Herzegovina comes in with one of the highest U.S. visa rejection rates in all of Europe, a sharp 28.5% in 2025. The post-war Balkan nation has made strides in democracy and development, but that hasn't translated into smoother access to the U.S. Consular officials remain wary, citing economic instability and a history of overstays as ongoing concerns. Many applicants from Bosnia report being rejected despite full-time employment and return tickets. Students, cultural ambassadors, and business travelers alike often face repeated denials. Critics say the U.S. process feels outdated and overly suspicious. Sarajevo's leaders have taken the issue to the international stage, claiming the visa process discriminates against smaller, post-conflict nations. Bosnia's foreign ministry has formally requested that Washington revise its metrics and improve fairness. So far, little has changed. American NGOs and exchange programs are also feeling the fallout, with fewer Bosnian participants able to attend conferences, academic exchanges, or training programs. The result? A growing diplomatic and cultural gap. For Bosnia and Herzegovina, the visa rejection trend sends a demoralizing message. Even after years of reform and alignment with the West, doors remain closed. And that's starting to affect how the country sees its future place in the world. Number 1. Kosovo. Topping the list in 2025 is Kosovo, with an eye-opening U.S. visa rejection rate of 31.6%, the highest in Europe. While Kosovo has made significant progress in political reform, development, and democratic institutions, it continues to face uphill battles when it comes to international recognition and mobility. Unfortunately, that includes getting through the U.S. visa process. Consular officers point to concerns about irregular migration and limited return incentives for applicants. Young people, in particular, face intense scrutiny, even if they have legitimate study or work plans. Visa interviewees often describe the experience as prejudged before speaking. Kosovo's government has urged the U.S. to treat it on par with other European nations, especially given its support for Western-aligned initiatives and NATO cooperation. But Washington remains cautious, citing irregularities in past migration patterns. That tension is casting a long shadow over bilateral relations. Students, entrepreneurs, and even athletes have publicly voiced frustration with the system. And with visa refusals piling up, many Kosovars are looking elsewhere, toward the EU, Turkey, or even Canada. The message being received is clear. The U.S. door is barely cracked open. As Kosovo pushes for full global integration, visa rejections serve as a painful reminder of its complex place in the international system, and for its citizens, the American dream is proving harder than ever to reach. So there you have it, the 10 European countries facing the steepest U.S. visa rejection rates in 2025. From wealthy democracies to rising nations, the reasons vary, but the trend is unmistakable. Entry into the United States isn't guaranteed, even for America's longtime friends. Whether it's outdated policies, political red tape, or fears of overstays, thousands of applicants across Europe are being left behind. And as rejection rates rise, so do the frustrations, missed opportunities, and growing diplomatic rifts. What was once a simple stamp of approval now feels more like a fortress wall. Which country's visa struggle shocked you the most? Let us know in the comments, and be sure to subscribe to Globe Discoveries for more breakdowns on the world's untold travel trends and geopolitical shifts. Thanks for watching.